We had a really complicated client-side application. No one wanted to touch anything. I started to see the magic. If it could be fast enough, my gosh, the developer experience here and the end user experience are both just dramatically better.
Let's fast forward to React. When and how did that happen?
Yeah, okay, so 2012-ish, one of the problems we were having was inside of our ads org, we had a really complicated client-side application. We were transitioning from a primarily server-driven ads manager. Actually, Paul Shen, who's now at OpenAI, and Nangao is still at Meta, like they worked on this primarily server-driven ads manager, but we needed to add a lot of interactivity. And as we added more and more interactivity, this thing just like started to fall over. So we then moved to a completely client-side model.
Really?
And the client-side ads manager app was just massive, right? It was built on basically a traditional client-side MVC where you'd have these models and you'd have these views and then the controller would like glue things together. But the problem was the models were so fat and they had so many incoming dependencies that you would make a change even when this app was not that massive. You'd make a change at one place in the app and it would have all of these downstream cascading consequences. And so we stopped being able to scale. The worst part though than the application becoming bloated and slow was that the team, no one wanted to touch anything.
Right.
You're like, oh God, I can't touch that much. That's the core model. Like I'll just go over here. So they kept adding more and more and more code and more bloat and, causing a lot of incidents and a lot of problems. So Jordan Walke was in the ads org at the time and he's like, there's gotta be a better way. And his idea had always been, look, you need to shove this data into some templates or something in order to generate the initial render.
Right.
And why can't you just, whenever anything changes, do that again? Why can't you just rerun the initial render? And the problem with it was, you'd lose state. If somebody typed in a text box, you just blew it away and replaced it with a new text box. You would lose, a flicker. There'd be some jumpiness and some things. He's like, but conceptually, I don't have to think about, look at all this code I delete. I just delete millions of lines of code. It's insane. So we actually were already using that technique for less stateful interfaces. Whenever this is like circa 2012 again, whenever somebody would sign online, and actually I think we did this via polling every couple of seconds, whenever your buddy list changed, we would re-render the entire buddy list from scratch.
That?
Yeah, we would just hit the back and we say like, who's online? Eventually when it became push, great, it's push now, but the same thing applies. It's like, hey, there's an update.
Yeah.
You could go in and say like, okay, I need to remove this DOM node and add this DOM node and update this yellow dot from yellow to green. Or you could just say, I don't know, just re-render the thing.
Yeah.
So we were already using this technique. So I connected sort of like Jordan Walke and Jing Chen.
Yeah.
And Jing was working on chat at the time with Adam Wolf and a bunch of other folks. And they're like, look, this is working pretty well. There's a couple bugs. And Jordan kind of had that same idea for this re-render everything from scratch. React was Fax.js was an exercise in how do we make it so that conceptually this is the model, but then we can make it much more efficient and much more, delightful of a user experience. He had kind of passed this idea around the ads org for a while and everybody was like, oh, this doesn't fit into our roadmap. How is this going to make us more money? Like, I don't know what this is. I've never seen this. And then, eventually one of the engineering directors reached out to me. He's like, yeah, you're doing this JavaScript infrastructure thing. Can you talk to this guy, Jordan, and see what this is about? When Jordan came to tell me about it initially, I was kind of like, no, we don't have time for this. I did the same thing.
Yeah.
But then I kind of gave it 5 minutes and he sat with me and we kind of went through it and I started to see the magic. And because, we brought a couple of additional folks in and people started to get it, they're like, look, I don't know if this is going to be able to be fast enough. If it could be fast enough, my gosh, the developer experience here and the end user experience are both just dramatically better.
Right.
So we knew we had something.
Was there a moment that clicked? Like when he was showing it to you, was there like a thing that was like, whoa?
The traditional like demo at this point was like, he just showed me typing into a text box and having multiple fields update in real time as he was typing. Right. And I was like, oh my God, that's not that impressive. What was impressive was the code that he authored to do it.
Yeah.
Right. It was so little code. And I was like, I usually have to wire this up. I need 10 event listeners. I need a bunch of DOM it used to be find things, do stuff was the mantra for JavaScript selectors at the time. And I was like, my God, you used to have to write dozens of lines of code to do this. And you did it in like this much code. Yeah. It's incredible.
Yeah.
And that's when it clicked for me. I think there was a little bit of a snowball. We brought like one person in at a time in order to say like, look, we think there's something here. validated it with some folks. And then to her credit, I think like Jing Chen ended up being a huge player here. She took this thing that wasn't even a thing yet, React, and she decided to rewrite Facebook comments with it. And Facebook comments was the most typed into text box on the entire internet, right? Like this was a really massive scale little application. And when you know it, like after burning through sort of inconsistencies and product quality issues and all this other stuff, she got this thing to a place where it performed better and the code base was 1/10. You know, it was just a dramatically easier to maintain code base. Simultaneously, we were working on the ads create flow with this as a trial, and it worked really well there as well. So then we kind of doubled down.
Wow. So React started in ads.
That's right.
It's a really interesting story because at the time, organization was pretty large, and navigating the complexity of pushing the idea through, that's rather contrarian, and I imagine might even get political. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, React was interesting because at the time we had at least sort of 3 competing client-side strategies. And we had like PHP delivering sort of server rendered stuff. But the biggest kind of alternative strategy was something we were already using in ads called Bolt. And Bolt was like a better version of like a backbone MVC with really expressive templates. So Bolt was actually really, really good. And to his credit, you know, the creator of Bolt was the guy Shane O'Sullivan, who was like a Dojo contributor from way back in the day. Shane kind of like allowed himself, this never happens in tech. He took the thing that he created and he said, I believe what you've created is going to take the business farther, take the team farther than what I've created. I'd love to help however I can. And he was responsible for the migration from Bolt to React. You never, ever see this in tech anymore.
Especially at that speed.
And never. React Native did not have the same, say, the 15 frameworks that were competing are still competing to this day. It's absolutely insane. But on the web, we had a moment of just very beautiful alignment where everybody was working on the same thing at the same time. And I actually credit React's success and growth and whatever to this idea that while competition feels like a powerful force, collaboration is the only force more powerful than competition. And we saw it, and we see the effects of that. This collaboration on React internally and then with the ecosystem turned it into the thing that it is today.
Yeah.